I now give the floor to the representative of Zimbabwe. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Mr. President. My delegation welcomes your assumption of the Security Council presidency for the month of January. Excellencies, Zimbabwe, in its own capacity and as current chair of the Southern African Development Community, SADC, commends Algeria for convening this critical open debate at a pivotal moment in the realm of peace and security, to reflect on how Africa can fortify its leadership in counter-terrorism efforts across the continent. Mr. President, His Excellency Ahmed Attaf's incisive opening remarks this morning have set a powerful tone for today's dialogue. We also express our gratitude for the enlightening briefings by the Deputy Secretary General, the African Union Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, and Mr. Said Djinnit, which underscored the urgent need for robust counter-terrorism strategies. Mr. President, the designation of sub-Saharan Africa as the new epicenter of terrorism calls for an urgent and unified response at all levels, sub-regional, continental, and international. We must act decisively to end this scourge before it claims more innocent lives and destabilizes more of our states. External interference and sponsorship of illegal armed groups, as well as development deficiencies, are critical issues at the root of terrorism scourge in Africa. This is exacerbated by the illicit flow of small arms and light weapons, which fosters transnational organized crime and undermines security, creating a breeding ground for terrorism. The potential proliferation of weapons of mass destruction to non-state actors adds a perilous dimension to this threat. Mr. President, a key aspect of our response must be the decisive action to close down the funding streams of terrorism in Africa. Terrorist groups thrive on financial resources that enable their operations and expand their reach. By cutting off their access to funds, we can significantly impair their ability to recruit, arm, and execute attacks. This includes targeting illicit trade networks, money laundering schemes, and other financial conduits that sustain terrorist activities. Enhanced international cooperation, stringent regulatory frameworks, and coordinated financial intelligence efforts are critical in this regard. Mr. President, terrorism poses a direct challenge to the attainment of the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals in Africa. Securing lasting peace is inseparable from our development objectives. By accelerating SDGs progress and bolstering socio-economic development, we can address the root causes of terrorism and advance the African Union's Agenda 2063. Increasing international support for the African Union Counter-Terrorism Center is imperative. This support should align with the African Union's Peace and Security Architecture, APSA, which with predictable funding to sustain African peace and security initiatives. Strengthening sub-regional bodies such as the Southern African Development Community's Regional Center, Counter-Terrorism Center, is also crucial for coordinated and timely responses to violent extremism. We call upon the United Nations and technically advanced member states to amplify their technical and capacity building and financial support for the national counter-terrorism centers in Africa. These centers are the linchpins of our domestic and global security efforts. In closing, we commend you, Chair, for organizing this important debate and reaffirm our commitment to strengthening counter-terrorism frameworks at all levels in Africa. Together, we can forge a path to peace and stability for future generations. I thank you, Mr. President.